Another night, another Sideline Sports. Everybody, welcome in. Appreciate you tuning in. You may be a little confused why George is here again. Well, George, first of all, welcome back, sir. But for everybody watching at home, George is the newest member of the Sideline Sports family. George has agreed to join us. George wants to be a part of this team, so get used to seeing him. He's going to be here pretty much every week. He's going to be part of this team. So Eric will be here sometimes. You know, Eric's got the Sports Arena shameless plug. John, you're on that too. Just got to shameless plug it. You know how it goes. But George I guess he liked us so much he wants to come back. So, George, welcome back, man. We love having you.
I'm happy to be back. I can't wait to get started.
Let's go. We got a guest that should be coming on any minute. When they do, JB, we'll throw it to you. You can introduce our special guest because if anybody that's been watching our social medias, we gave you some hints, but I don't think we've told anybody on social media quite yet who this special guest is just yet.
By the way, Jake, you turn 21 tonight at midnight? That's
22, John.
22.
22. You missed it, John.
All right, you can drink
We've only been working with Jake for 2 years now.
Almost 2 years.
Super Bowls.
Exactly.
I have no idea how old he is. He looks like he's like 18.
If George said 21, I would have been like, all right, he doesn't know yet. That's okay. John, I expected you to know that.
I thought you were 20. I thought that
from your profile picture, Jake, you look younger than 22.
Okay.
When I looked at it, I was like, I had to do a double take.
I'll give you this. That profile picture is from when I was 18. That is my high school picture because it's just the most picture I have. So you actually are correct on that. Looks like we have our guest. So, JB, I'll turn it to you, sir.
All right. So we've searched high and far to get, football season camps opened up today. We wanted to get someone that made the Pro Bowl, a quarterback. We got a great running back already now, and he's part of the show every week. But, we needed a Pro Bowl quarterback. So we looked far and wide, and we found the best one that we could find. And so we're honored to have on the show. We got Gus Frerott joining us today. How you doing today, Gus?
Good, JB. How you guys doing, man? We got a crowd here. That's nice.
Nice.
Small crowd. Yeah, how you doing, Gus?
I'm doing great. Look at wait, what's Blue Hawks?
Yeah, that's my Twitter handle. I'm John. You'll get used to everybody. Kind of sort of.
We apologize in advance for John.
Thank you.
We can't help him.
John is.
I thought John's hockey team was going to go all the way this year, but I don't know.
You and John both. And I told John, absolutely not. I'm a Rangers fan. I told him.
Yeah, I hate Jake so much.
I'm a Penguins fan.
Oh,
I like Gus more than I like Jake.
Oh, that's offensive.
Oh, look at that! It only took me like 20 seconds.
He's been here for maybe 20 seconds. He's already caused a rift. Look at this.
For that, Jake, you're out of order.
Right, we got it out of order already. That was
nice.
quick. 3.5 minutes into the show.
Early birthday out of order.
See, if you're a Rangers fan, that's what happens.
That's fair. Hey, that's fair enough. That's fine. I'll accept it. You know what? Knocking both of your teams out of the playoffs was more than worth it. I enjoyed every second of it.
Forgive him. He doesn't know
what else
was
worth it? Scoring like 20 goals against your goalie in 2 games.
Hey, you know what? Again, it was totally worth it when he got the Vezina. When he wins best goalie, I'm like, hey, it's cool. It was worth it. At the end of the day, got to enjoy that. I live with that.
No, I give him a lot of credit because he had a great comeback. Like I thought he was done after, it was in Pittsburgh and the whole crowd was chanting his name. They pulled him, and I'm like, okay, this guy's toast. He came back. He made a great comeback.
It was look. I'll tell you, it was
a great series.
As a Rangers fan, it was painful those first few games watching him.
Yeah, I hear it was painful for me to lose the series. So, how are you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Doing great.
Doing well.
Great. I must say, 4 of the 5 have great beard games going on.
I know.
John calling me out.
Well, George and I are the old guys, it looks like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with my buddy Fitzy, but I don't think it's
nobody can keep up with Fitzy.
That beard is a magnificent thing. I'm telling you, that thing has a mind of its own.
It really does. Nice. He was just at the house not too long ago, and with his 7 kids and his wife, I was like, look at that thing. It's amazing. And I think he had crumbs in it from McDonald's. Stopped along the turnpike here in PA. There was like a bird in it. I don't know. There's all kind of stuff going on.
Oh, that's
wow.
I love that.
Well, he's retired, so I guess he could do that now.
Right. He's just enjoying himself.
He's got to look even better now because he's going to be on Thursday night Prime, Amazon Prime games, and he has no helmet to cover that ugly face of his.
Wow. Who would have thought that,
Gus coming out firing.
Yes, I see that.
Well, I did have a few watermelon margaritas tonight, so.
He seems so reserved in the NFL, but off,
Wow, so I guess everyone.
You're like,
John, hold on. You thought he was reserved?
A striker. I love it.
Hey, Blue Hawk, we all got a little dog in us.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
speaking of George. I'm throwing it to you, my man. I know the question that we all had to ask, and I'm gonna turn it to you because it's the perfect time to start off with that question.
Well, you know what, Gus? I've seen you play. We played against each other when you was at Washington. I got a good buddy of mine who played with you, Stephen Davis, running back.
Oh man, how's he doing? I miss Stephen.
He's doing good. Yeah, he's out there still in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He's doing really well. But my first question, and I know millions of people and all of our listeners in Inside Sports want to know, when you scored that touchdown, why did you ram your head into the pad in the back of the end zone?
Yeah, I thought we were buddies.
We got to know, man.
You know what I mean? Like,
we all want to know.
Are you going to ask Stephen Davis, like the first question when he comes on your show, are you going to ask him why he got sucker punched by Michael Westbrook?
Is that
the question you're going to ask Stephen?
Yes.
Is that the question you're going to ask
you? Yes, I was going to ask you that same question. I was going to ask you about
But would you ask Stephen that question?
Yes. I was going to, if he ever comes on the show, I'm going to say, Stephen, why did you let Michael Westbrook sucker punch you and you're not doing anything after?
You don't really let anybody sucker punch you.
That's
just
fair
happens.
point.
It just happens.
But Gus, he should have known.
In Stephen's defense, he was with a couple guys that were just, and Terry Allen and Brian Mitchell. They were standing around, and George, you know how it is in the locker room. You joke around, you kid around with everybody, and you make fun of shit, and you got to be able to take it. And Michael just couldn't take it. He was very sensitive, and he took it out on Stephen. And Michael was a badass. Like even though he got knocked out in MMA, he was a bad dude. You know what I mean? Like I've gone blow to blow with him just because of shit he used to do. We were getting our ankles taped, and I was jaw jacking with him, and he just can't take it. He didn't want to learn. He didn't want to hear anything from anybody else. And so at some point you're just like, okay, you're going to step to me. I'm going to step to you. And I think he just had enough. He had he was a first round pick. It wasn't going great for him. Darryl Green owned him every day in practice. And
I mean, who didn't Darryl Green own?
But Darryl was like, this is like 2 days. And Darryl's like, Michael, if you fight with me, you're not running your route. I won already. Right. And
you've already lost. Just give up.
Literally, like, I mean, if you're fighting with anybody, you can't sorry about that. You can't run your route properly, and there's no timing. And so for Michael, I think it got hard. Like, I've known Michael for a long time, and I've been friends with him, but it is what it is. And I think everything just piled up on him, and he just let it go on Stephen. Well, and it happened to be the cameras out there that day.
Yeah.
So how often?
For me,
how often does that happen?
What's that? Well, I
was wondering how often does that happen when the cameras aren't around?
I don't think
not much nowadays. Not much nowadays. Like anytime you have practice, there are closed practices, but not very often. I think Bill Belichick might be the only guy that has closed practices. But back in the day, there were a lot more. Right? You could have days that you didn't have practice. Nobody was around. You could be in the indoor facility, and it just was a tough thing. And we had a good team. We had a lot of talent on that Redskins team, and we just we just didn't have the leader to put us all together.
Yeah. Well, Gus, let me ask you this. You still the vice president of the Brain Health Initiative?
I do work with RC21X and the Roberto app. I do help them out. We were just on a meeting today. I don't go in like I used to. I was just telling this guy today that why I love RC21X and why I continue to help him is because when I came out of the league, what did I know for 25 years, George? I knew football. That's it.
All you knew is football.
You know, these guys brought me under the wing. They let me ask them a bunch of questions. I didn't even know how to do a PowerPoint. You know what I mean? Like, what? I didn't have to do a PowerPoint in the league. Like, nobody had to do that shit.
Maybe you watched one from your coaches, but that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know how to do a PowerPoint either. That's probably why we never won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we were always on the schedule, just like every day, every minute. We had to be somewhere.
The shit's in front of you. You don't have to. I mean, you go and work and you study and you work hard, but it's different, right? And business is different. And so those guys let me get my feet wet in business, and so I continue to help them. They have an incredible app called the Roberto app that it's basically your performance companion. If you want to know what your brain's doing, how it's reacting to things, use the Roberto app. It's going to tell you that. Whether you're a gamer, an athlete, somebody in the job, it's a great application for you to use to let you know where you are, because we can measure so many things, George. Like you guys seen, when they film the combine now, it's everybody in their tights and you can see all the metrics. Yeah. How many of those guys you ever seen where they put up and watch them take their Wonderlic, or which is a joke of a test, but understand what their brain performance is, right? Would you guys rather have for your quarterbacks, for your team, whatever you love, basketball, whatever, a smart guy who's got pretty good talent, or a guy who has tremendous talent but can't understand anything, or jumps off sides, or
I'd want Peyton Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning.
Well, that's the best of both worlds, John.
That's pretty good talent.
That's hard to
find.
But
if you look at Peyton's, if you look at Peyton's head, it's like twice the size of a normal head. He might have two brains.
This is true. So,
what about that forehead?
Getting back to brains, George brought it up, and you kind of avoided it just a little bit. I got to know about why you hit your head. I got to know.
There's no real reason. It's not like I planned it like on Monday and I said, you know what, we're playing the Giants this week on a big game this week. Yeah. There's going to be 25 million people watching. You know what the best thing to do for me is just score a touchdown, run it in, and then just kind of run into the wall.
Was it just
there was nothing planned. I did it. I had a lot of angst going in because of a terrible relationship with my head coach, and just on me all the time because I wasn't his pick. He picked Heath Schuler, and so that made a that gave us a lot of we weren't connecting, and so for me, I kind of threw the ball off the wall, just wanted to jump off the wall and end up just putting my head out and hitting the wall, and then I turned around. People don't really talk about this, but my tight end, Jamie Asher, came up to me and smacked me so hard on the side of the head because we scored a touchdown. We're beating the Giants. It's a huge divisional game. And then I just kind of went, after he hit me, I just was like, oh, shit. What's going on? You know what I mean? And really what happened was I got a stinger in my trap. George, you know what a stinger is, right?
Yes,
so I got a stinger and I couldn't release my trap, and that was really what was going on with me. If it would have been in my left side, it would have been no big deal, but it was in my right. It was a huge game. Everybody was watching. They made a big deal out of it. Back in the day, I would have smoked a cigarette and drank a beer when I was back on the field.
Well, Gus, in your defense, when we was talking about that yesterday, I told the crew, usually when someone scores a touchdown or someone does a great play in the NFL, even in college, teammates normally would hit each other. They would headbutt each other.
I hated that.
Yes, they would headbutt.
Never understood that.
I don't know.
But just like you said, Gus, you was just in the moment, and think, you just scored a touchdown and you forget what you're doing until after the fact.
And then you
it's
realize
just
what happened.
Yes, when
Well,
you headbutt somebody,
but
it is
George,
hard and it hurts.
Yeah, and look at it this way. I tell my kids all the time, your dad's going to be on ESPN for the rest of his life. Like, you know what I mean? Unless I would have won 6 Super Bowls, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Hey, Gus, I would take that, and I can bet you, if we polled 1 million people, they would take that play that you did just to be in the NFL for one day.
Oh, without a doubt.
I can tell you, I would too.
So
yes.
I would that play, whether you think people may look at it a different way, I look at it as, hey man, you were part of a 1% of the world that get to play something that they love to do. So
that's true.
That's the best. That's the best.
You know what? I will take on that wall any day over Michael Strahan, Eric Swan.
Yes,
Gilbert Brown, all the guys who just laid on top of me as they were hitting me,
I can only imagine.
Those guys, those things were way worse than that wall.
Oh, I'm sure. So, sure. Gus, real quick, you talked about something that piqued a little interest in me. And John, this is not to pick on your team at all, but it did spark. John's a Dolphins fan, and he's a big supporter of Tua. And there's nothing wrong with supporting Tua, but you talked about your rocky relationship with your coach, right? You weren't his pick. That's something we've seen with Tua and what we saw with Brian Flores. And there was that divide where, Brian Flores did his best to coach Tua, but you knew he wanted Justin Herbert. That's what we knew. Do you look at that situation? Can you give us a little insight, maybe what was going on in that situation, being in that similar situation?
I hear you there, but if Brian Flores didn't like Tua, why did he bench Fitzy? Fitzy had that team moving.
Rocking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you bench the guy that's giving your team all the momentum, and then you say, okay, we got this young kid. We took him in the first round. We don't know what he's going to do. Yeah, he played at Alabama and did all this stuff, and he's come back from a big injury. Let's just try him and see if he can play.
My guess, my guess is upper management told him, look, you got to start this guy.
Stephen Ross wanted it.
Well, I probably –
this is somebody that's never played in the NFL and knows as much as I can without being in that locker room, being in that environment. So that's why I throw it to you, Gus, as somebody that was in a similar situation. And George, enough as well, being in the NFL, you understand the way those kinds of things can work. So that's why I throw it to you, because I agree. I thought they drafted him, which was one thing, but I agree with what you said. Things were going well. Why did you switch when things were
to be fair, the Dolphins were 3-3. So if that's going
well,
I mean, sure.
But what would he?
Well, probably not as good as they've been since I played there in 2005.
Yes,
it wasn't like they were 0-6 and they were getting crushed every game. They were average. They were okay at least.
Well, they had fans, right? People love watching Ryan. Like, people love watching that team. And I think people love Tua, but it's just a different dynamic. He doesn't bring the same skill sets, the same dynamics as some other quarterbacks out there. That's not saying he's not a winner.
Yeah.
And, that's what the bottom line comes down to.
Absolutely.
But, the hardest thing for the Dolphins has been putting butts in seats.
Yeah.
Because they're bluebirds down there, right? They're coming from New York and New England. And, I mean, we played a Patriots in 2005, and it's all Patriots fans, and it's insane.
So when Tua mentioned about not knowing the playbook in his first year, is that common for new quarterbacks, or is that?
I those kind of comments scare me, because if you're a quarterback and you're one of 3, and like George said, you're in a 1% position. I don't care who you are. If you don't know the playbook, you are not going to make it in this league.
So what do you think that says about? What do you think that says about Tua? I mean, maybe he's a different guy than he was in his rookie year when he wasn't taking the playbook serious, and he had, I'm paraphrasing, mentioned that the NFL is easy. This doesn't seem as hard as he thought it was, and guys kind of took that personal. It seemed like, and media kind of seemed like they took it personal.
Yeah, because he hadn't played in a game.
Right, exactly.
Because he's in practice. Anybody can do practice. You get in the game, and you turn that meter up to 10. Like, these guys coming from college, they think they play in these big bowl games, and they think they play in these national championships and that's what it's all about and there's nothing bigger. Shit, that's every game in the NFL, and I don't care what your record is.
I mean, think about it. There's 125 Division I schools approximately. There's 32 NFL teams. So, you got to be the best of the best, obviously, to make it. And speaking of which, looking at your career, what Baker Mayfield's going through now, you went to a couple of different teams, never projected the starter. When you went to Minnesota your last time, you were supposed to be the backup, but yet you fought and won the starting job. What's that like for Baker Mayfield? What's going through his mind right now as he, got traded to Carolina and is going to fight with
Sam Darnold?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's making a shit ton more money than I ever did. So whatever he does, he's happy, right? Because he knows that there's nothing else I can do in this world that I'm going to make this much money and do something that I love to do, whether I'm playing or not playing. I think Baker understands that. Yeah, he did some good things in Cleveland. He was a part of that team. Things change, man. We've seen it every time. You look at some of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played this game, Joe Montana, Tom Brady. Why would you want to get rid of Tom Brady? Let him play for the Patriots as long as he wants. Who gives a shit? Right? But they got to move on, right? Joe Montana goes to the Chiefs. All these guys move on. That's just the league. There's somebody younger, better, stronger, faster, whatever it is.
Always trying to take you.
Right? That's why there's a combine every year. That's why all this stuff every year. And I just think that, when you want people to hang on and you want to do well, but new coaches come in, new GMs come in, owners are like, I want the new car. Right. Yes. I want the new car coming out. Oh, they just made an SUV Bentley. I want that thing. And that's just how it is. That's the NFL, man. And once you're out, once you're the guy that isn't copacetic with what you want, they'll just get rid of you. They don't care how much money it costs because they're gonna make all that money and more the next year, those owners. So
that's true.
With Baker Mayfield, he fell out of love. They went and got Deshaun Watson, whatever, all the shit that's going on with that, right? They were looking, they've been looking for another team. They finally found it in Carolina. And Carolina's like, look, what's every team want? The first two quarterbacks to be starters. How many teams have that? Maybe
not a lot.
4, maybe a couple, right?
It's hard to do that.
What happens when you see your quarterback get hurt and then the backup comes in? You guys, everybody says, "Oh shit!" There goes our season.
I say that when I see my starter go out. Are you kidding me?
I see that when your starter plays.
Right. That's what I'm saying. For me, as a Giants fan, I see Daniel Jones go out there. Like, oh, geez, here we go again. Look, I tried to give him his chance, but that's the reaction I have. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, but he had,
most people don't know, Gus.
George.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, Gus, like you just said, when the starter goes down, most people don't know that the backup don't get reps in practice. They run the scout team. So when they have to come in, they're coming in without having any reps during the week. And most fans don't even know that.
Yeah, I mean, unless you've been to battle and understand what it takes to be out there, the first time you go in, if you got a new backup, and he has to play, good luck. You know what I mean? Like I've seen that with Mason Crosby here in Pittsburgh and backing up Big Ben. Like for as poor as Big Ben was his last couple of years, comparatively to his whole career.
Rudolph is brutal.
Not compared to other quarterbacks, but compared to his whole career, Mason Rudolph couldn't hold his jockstrap.
No.
I agree.
And I've always contested that teams – look, you want your top guy to get all the money, right? I understand that.
Yeah.
But why not invest in the backup? Because it's a tough game. I don't care what rules they change, what happens.
That's true.
I mean, they're getting quarterbacks in now that want to run.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray's barely 5'9" and weighs 175 pounds. What do you think, if Aaron Donald has a shot at him running to the sideline, he's not going to take it?
Yeah. Yes. Right. You're right. So let me ask you a quick question. I ask this to a lot of guests because it's an ongoing debate between myself, John, and JB. It is a quarterback-related question, so I feel like it's perfect for you, somebody that played the position, so you know what it takes. Eli Manning.
Nope.
Do you believe, from what you've seen and what you know as a quarterback, do you believe he's a Hall of Famer?
No, man, you put me on the spot.
I have to.
Comparing what
A lot invested in this.
Yeah, comparing
I
what
can
it
answer
takes
that
to,
easily.
Well, you go ahead first because I'll.
We're huddling up.
He wants to
Gus
think
right
about his
now.
answer.
We're
You want to
huddling up with
piggyback
Gus
off me,
right
Gus?
now.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
piggyback.
Well,
I see
I
the
think
beads of
he-
sweat
I think-
pouring down Gus's face.
Well, that's from the bottle of wine I also had.
yeah.
So.
And Gus and the rest of the crew, I think Eli is a Hall of Fame player. And the reason why I say that,
I knew I liked you, George.
I appreciate it.
He's a
When you
running
went
back. I don't take his
when-
opinion on quarterback.
Just the two
Oh.
Super Bowls alone, beating Tom Brady and Bill
Thank you.
Belichick, that's more than enough to get you into the Hall of Fame these days. Because just think about it. Joe Namath and some guys who don't even have the stats that Eli has, the consecutive games starting, winning
Thank you.
2 Super Bowls and being Super Bowl MVP for both of them against arguably the greatest coach and arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, beat them both times.
Yep.
So, I mean, stats alone, I don't think should get anybody in the Hall of Fame, because if you play for 20, 22 years at a position, but you were never won a Super Bowl, you were never considered one of the best 10 out of that position, it doesn't matter about your stats. You were just lucky enough to have played a long career and put up a bunch of numbers. In my opinion, I think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. Now, do I say first ballot? That one.
It depends on who's in his class, but probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, when I
Probably
say
not.
first ballot, then
Well-
you start to Gus, you know this, you start to say, well, where was he in any of the MVP votings when he was playing?
He
Was
was
he
terrible in the regular season.
Was he all pro any of those years? Was he second team all pro? You start weighing those things in. But as far as getting into the Hall of Fame, I'm believing that he should get in. Now, as far as the first ballot, that may be a different question, because
I agree.
that right there is held to a higher standard to be a first ballot, because you should play half of your career and be at least the best at your position when you play. That's my
Well,
opinion.
let me ask
couldn't
you
have said
this,
it better.
George. If he had a different last name, do you think he'd be a first ballot or
Bingo.
a Hall of Famer?
Well,
Yeah, there it is.
hold on.
I mean,
That's
how
what
many
I wanted.
quarterbacks have won Super Bowls that aren't in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that you, Gus, you are correct on that. Now, I'm gonna be full transparent. I'm friends with the Mannings, so
Oh, yeah,
I'm
we all-
biased.
I mean, we all know them. I love those guys. They're
Yeah,
great.
I'm a little biased when it comes. So, if people may say that's biased of me saying that, but you're probably right, because they're saying the same thing about the nephew that's going out to Texas.
Arch.
If his last
Okay.
name wasn't Manning,
yeah, like they tried saying he's the greatest high school player ever. Okay, like
Yeah.
So Ryan Fitzpatrick and I were talking about this. Like, Arch Manning, I don't think so. I mean, what did Derrick Henry look like in high school? Who was he running over? You know what I mean? You're gonna take Arch Manning or Derrick Henry.
Right.
Like there's so many guys.
And that's
guys
just one
that
example.
didn't even make it to the pros that probably were just unreal athletes. That just never made it because of one issue or another. Like, and I think a name, obviously, when you have a name, it carries you a long way. And it's amazing that they had two brothers play in the NFL and do the things they did. And I think that in that alone is enough to get those brothers into the Hall of Fame, because the NFL loves that. The NFL wants that, right?
Yeah.
They are the Mannings, right? They love that. Tell me any other guys that could go on and watch NFL games and compete with ESPN and compete with games that are on and bring Hall of Famers and other crazy people on, like LeBron James. You name it, they've brought them on their show and compete. Those guys can, because not only
they're the standard. They're the standard.
not only because of their name, but what they did on the field. Like,
Right.
to be honest, I've never been an Eli Manning fan, but I think he probably does and will get into the Hall of Fame.
All right.
That's 2 more votes
you-
my side.
Yeah. Well, Gus, now you're seeing how the NFL has revolutionized itself since me and you was playing, especially the quarterback position, making all that money, backups making $10 million just to sit on the bench. You know, when you were playing, especially in Washington, and you having Stephen Davis and you guys were like a majority run offense, how do you think you would fare in today's game with the wide open, throwing the ball 40 times a game, 5 wide receiver sets most of the time, and running that no huddle?
Well, the game completely changed back in the day when they went from the running the ball to 5 wides, and you know, it was a big changeover for a lot of people. They went to more of a college kind of system in the NFL to because college was changing, and they knew that to try and convert a kid that was coming out of college to be an under center quarterback that had incredible ability, but he couldn't, you know, do a 7-step play action fake. And to try and convert him, they didn't have 2-3 years to do that. Right. So what's the easiest thing to do is change your offense. It's like, okay, we're going to run the same routes. We're going to spread it out. We're going to do all these things. And I think the game completely changed from what it used to be, because I was kind of in that middle of that transition where we had, you know, Terry Allen, Stephen Davis, we had power game, we had running backs. Even in, you know what, even when I think about like Scott Linehan, who was my OC in Minnesota,
fantastic.
And in Miami, he brought some of that old school, because when I had Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown in Miami, we were still doing that stuff, and we were still trying to do shotgun at the same time, and we're trying to do everything, and it's really, really hard to do all of it together, right? I think you got to pick your poison, you know, because, you know, just like Lamar Jackson, everybody wants him to that, you know, that coach is a run first coach, right? Lamar's a great runner. I want to see him throw the ball more. I want to see him get some 2 or 3 of the top receivers and see what he can do.
They got to stop trading his receivers.
But I don't think I don't think Gus, any top receiver will go there because of what you just said. That the head coaches primarily run. That's why
exactly.
That's why Brown, who left and went to Arizona, because he knew he wasn't going to be able to put up the big numbers with Lamar Jackson.
It wasn't his choice.
Like he will with Kyler Murray.
It was a surprise on draft night, you know, that he was traded. And I mean, it's not like the Ravens can't go out and trade for a big time receiver. Like, they could have easily done that. And the receiver has no choice. If the receiver's on a 3-year deal and you go and trade for him, he's going to play for you. So, like, it's not like the Ravens can get out of it with that. They can go and trade for one. We've seen teams not pay that much to get a receiver.
Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. Just think about this: the early '90s Cowboys, right?
Yep.
Early '90s Cowboys. Emmitt Smith running the football. That offensive line. Troy Aikman throwing it 15 times a game to Michael Irvin, who's running down the field, had 12 catches. Yep. Right? You don't think that the Ravens get cover 1 and cover 3 more than any team out there? Like, if I'm a receiver and I get 1-on-1, that's all you can ask for. That's like, if I'm Devontae Adams and I'm at the Raiders, they're rolling over the top of me. I played with Randy Moss. That's all they did to him. Right? They didn't give a shit if we ran. All they did was weren't letting Randy, go 80 3 times a game. Yeah. But if I'm a receiver, I'm thinking opposite. I'm saying, look, I'm going to get my 5 or 6 plays a game, right? It's up to me to get open. I think this guy can deliver me the ball. Right? It's 1-on-1. That's all you want. But he's not had those guys. He's not had those guys like
the
Brown,
tight end is great.
Right? He gets open, but it's not the same. It's not the same as the guy running a 4-4.
Yeah, Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, you think Jamar Chase isn't going to stay in? I mean, I guarantee that that Cincinnati is going to run the shit out of the ball this year because they upgraded their line. and they're going to protect Joe Burrow.
They're going to be able to run the ball this year.
They were top 5 in running the ball last year as well. So
they're going to run it, but they're going to run it more this year, I think, and they're going to run it more effectively,
which will open up the play action.
Oh,
yeah, but if you have 5-6 DBs out there, it's hard to throw the ball around.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do this year. I mean, I really don't. I don't know.
He's going to throw it to himself. He's going to throw it up and he'll catch it.
Gus, I think he's going to be better.
What is Patrick Mahomes going to?
I'd love to see it.
They need to run more.
Well, John, if you look at Patrick Mahomes, the games that Tyreek Hill didn't play, those were some of his best games.
No, but he doesn't have him. You know what I mean? Like those were some games. You said some games.
That's there was like about 10 games.
Yes,
but I think as good as the Chiefs are, they're going to be able to easily move on without him. Would they have the big play capability? No. But I think Patrick Mahomes will be a better quarterback because he's going to be forced to have to read and do things a little bit different instead of having somebody to have a home run every time he goes out in a route.
I think it'll help make Mahomes better because he'll stop looking for the home run and stop making those plays where he feels like he's just got to force it down because Tyreek might be open. And that's a lot of what he does sometimes. And he's a great quarterback, and he makes some of the most phenomenal plays. But sometimes I'm watching him and thinking, all he's doing is just looking for Tyreek downhill. That's it. He's just.
Well, I have to be honest. I'm a quarterback, and that's what I would do.
And I get it. I get it. But
Why do you think they brought him in for Tua?
No. But I think to George's point, it will make Mahomes a more versatile quarterback because he'll be able to see the game in a different light instead of thinking, let's just go all the way down.
Yeah, because he's not going
to make different types of plays.
Pretty versatile.
Oh,
you see the shit.
I'm saying he can get better.
3-time All-Pro.
I know. My point is he can get even better somehow, though.
I just don't know. But I mean, just going back to Aaron Rodgers, like, if you think about what Davante Adams was able to do to a secondary and how they tried to stop him, now what now you can play like quarters and like who's he going to throw it to? He's a great quarterback.
He puts it on time.
Well, I mean, yeah, and he's got great running backs,
right? But
and I hope his tight end is good, but I don't know. I mean, that one would be tough for me. But you understand it's the NFL. They paid him a shit ton of money. They got to get rid of money somewhere.
Yep,
that's true.
Well, Gus, I think with Aaron Rodgers, to piggyback off your point, if you looked at that game when they played San Francisco, he threw the ball 90% of the time to Davante, and it was a play critical in the fourth quarter. If he would have completed it, they would have been in field goal range to win that game. And number 13 was clearing right behind Davante Adams, and he was locked in on Davante Adams and didn't look at anybody else because I don't think he trusted the receivers.
13 is Alan Lazard, though, I think.
I think if he would have been looking and giving everybody a fair shot instead of just locking in on your best receiver, they would have won that game. They would have won that game.
Once you're one-dimensional, the defense can key on it, and it changes the whole thing. If you know where the ball's going, how much easier is it to play defense?
To be fair, A.J. Dillon got knocked out of the game, and Aaron Jones got hurt early in the game. So both of their top running backs were
right. But to George's point, he was thinking Davante didn't look to Lazard. Which
no, I know. I'm just saying, like,
if you're playing if the five of us are playing basketball and one of us is LeBron James, I'm going to have 25 assists that game because I'm just giving it to LeBron James. You know what I mean? Like
fair.
You're looking for your best players, and you go with who you trust, and especially in those situations. Like if it's that game in the playoffs, and I got a chance to throw to, I'm probably going to stare down Davante. Like that's just because that's built into who you are, and that makes it hard. Though I know what you're saying, George, and I kind of think that he's probably doing a really good job with all the young guys and telling them what to do. And he seems pretty laid back, like in practice and things. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. I just feel like when you have a number one guy out there like that, it just makes, it opens the run game. It just does so much more. Like I guarantee he's going to see a lot of cover 1 and cover 3 this year.
Oh, yeah.
Gus, let me ask you, does anybody else got a question before I ask one?
Yeah, so my phone's been going off the hook with people asking me who your favorite teammate was in Minnesota. I got about 10 texts asking me that.
Which year? Well, I was in Minnesota twice.
Yeah. So either time.
So there's so many guys. I loved playing for the Vikings. It was a great place. I really enjoyed it. The first time I was there, obviously we had a great quarterback room. It was me and Dante Culpepper and Sean Hill. And I used to have Halloween parties. I'd do everything up there. Coach Tice was our head coach. I'd go in the mornings and Randy Moss and Matt Burke and myself, and we always had a guest player. We played dominoes every morning. And because Matt Burke and I were in there early, and Moss would come in and we saved him a seat, and whoever else came next. And Mike Tice would come in and read the paper right beside us and say, "Oh, can you believe the shit they're saying about us?" And we're like, "Is that the head coach or is that a player? Like, what's going on here?" But so many guys, I just love those times. And then I went back to a completely different team in 2008, and Adrian Peterson was there and Bernard Berrien, and we had an incredible defense with the Williams, up front. And I started the Donut Club there. And just a lot of great memories, but favorite teammate. And I met him kind of through the season. I was a holder for kickers. And in the middle of the season, kind of like maybe a quarter of the way through, Morton Anderson comes in as our kicker.
Wow. Nice.
Right.
Okay.
And I have to learn how to hold for a left-footed kicker. And the first day he's there, I'm kind of like the jokester guy in the locker room, right? I pull pranks on people. And the first day he's there, he has his clothes all nice and folded in his locker. And I'm like, yeah, who the hell does he think he is, right? And I take his clothes, and it's like 10 degrees in Minnesota. And I put him in a bucket, pour warm water in there. And he's in like a special teams meeting in the morning. And I freeze all his clothes into a solid ice block, put him back in his locker. And I'm sitting in my locker, and he comes out from his meeting. And he's like, "Who the F would do this to me? Hey!" He's screaming around. And then I'm laughing my ass off. And he goes, "Frerott, I know it was you." And I'm going, "It wasn't me. I mean, I think that's a pretty good joke, but it wasn't me." And so I go to my meetings, and I come back, and all my clothes were frozen over the goalpost. And since that point, Morton and I have been pretty good friends. But, that's just one of the stories from Minnesota. But there were so many good people in Minnesota, and I really absolutely loved my time in Minnesota.
That's awesome.
Gus, I wanted to know, I know you got two sons, Gunnar and Gabriel.
Yeah,
Did
Gunnar and Gabe, yep.
Yeah. Did you ever coach them in youth or middle school, high school? Did you ever coach them in any football?
Well, for good or bad, there's a lot of stories about that. I coached my son Gabe's team one first year after I quit playing in the NFL. And I had no idea what I was doing for youth, because you talk to them and they look at you like you got three heads, right?
Same here.
Like, right? And you're like, how do I tell? I don't know how to talk to these kids.
How do you dumb it down for them to understand it?
Yes,
right?
I'm at a different language level than they understand. But the hardest part, George, it wasn't the kids. It was trying to talk to the other parents, right? Because all the parents are coaches. And they're all armchair quarterbacks, and they think they know football. They don't know shit.
And you're the only one that's
right.
really
and you're trying
at that level.
So I'm like, okay, so I go back old school from when I went to high school. I ran a wing tee in high school, right? It's a very simple idea, very simple concept. I'm trying to teach it. Like, the kids are getting it. I'm watching the parents. They don't understand what I'm telling them. Like, I'm like, you're a 45-year-old man. How do you not know what the hell I'm talking about? So that was a hard situation. And then I coached high school. I coached Ezekiel Elliott and Foye Khan in high school. And my son was young, and then he was coming up in 9th grade. I was coaching him at quarterback. And I had a lot of my dad in me. Like, my dad used to yell a lot, right? When I was a kid, he was a mill guy. And so my son, I told him what to do. He didn't do it. He went out in the field, whatever. And I started yelling at him. It was halftime. He's in the locker room crying. And I just said, shit, I can't do that. He's a freshman. I said, I can't do this. I'm not ruining my lifetime relationship with my son because of a football game.
Yeah.
And so I
Man,
said, Gunner, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. Go out, have fun, play whatever position you want to play, but I am not coaching you anymore. And that was it. That was the last time I coached my kids, because it is hard, because you put a lot of expectations on them. They have a lot of expectations on themselves because of who their dad was. And I just had a lot of my dad in me. My dad was the guy who said, I don't give a shit if you threw 4 touchdowns. Why'd you throw that one pick? Right?
Gus,
that was I'm telling you, every game I played in the NFL, when I called, that's what he said to me.
Gus, I'm listening to you, and that was the same when I started coaching my boys, our boys, me and my wife's kids. I had the exact same thing. I would go crazy. I would take the game really seriously. I wanted to win every game. I wanted the practice to be structured and everybody pay attention and everybody lock in. And then Gus, what turned it around for me is I looked at the book of Manning. Have you saw that?
No.
With all the Mannings. So that's why I say I'm a little biased. So I looked at the book of Manning, and I seen how Archie was, treating Cooper, Eli, and Peyton. And so I looked through it, and I had like some emotional feelings about it. So then I said, you know what? Let me look at it again tomorrow. Let me make sure something is not right. So I looked at it again, and I was like, man, I'm not doing something right with my son, because I was doing the exact same thing you were, like you said, I was yelling. I was telling him when we got in the car, the first thing I would do is say, why didn't you do this? Why did that happen? I was negative, and
you're taking the fun out of the game for him.
Yeah. So I reached out.
Yeah,
I reached out to Peyton and asked him about connecting me to his father. I talked to Archie, and I was full transparent in what I was doing with my son, because I didn't like the relationship that we were having. And he gave me a few tips, and once I implemented them into what I was doing, me and my son relationship like went from 1 to 1,000, because just like you said, I was looking through my own eyes and not seeing why can't you see that what I can see?
Yeah.
And he's only 7 years old, and he shouldn't be able to see that like us as grown men.
Well, I'll give you an example of what happened. So my son, when he played youth football, they had a really good team. I didn't coach them, but my older son, Gunner, they had a really good team. They won their little youth league and were champions and all this. And I asked him, and I think back about this, and I asked him, I said, what do you remember about that season? He said, Dad, remember that practice where it rained the whole day? And after practice, all we did was like run and slide in the mud and throw mud at each other, and the parents got in it, and all the parents were muddy. He said, that was my favorite day of football. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, It's not that important. I tell people all the time, I didn't play quarterback till I was in 11th grade, and yeah, you take it serious. You got to learn some skill sets. But as a coach, you got to understand how to coach the positive. Yes. Because we were always taught what you did wrong.
Yes.
But just think if we were taught what you did right and how to make that better. Like, what a difference that would. Yeah, and I don't know if I ever got it ever, right? Yeah, because even in the pros, they're like, oh, what do you need to work on? What's your weakness, right? Not like, hey, we love your strengths. Here's the 5 strengths you have. We want to build our offense around you, and we want to make sure that you're successful. Never that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, here's our offense. All right, here's your negatives, and how are you going to get better to fit in our offense, right? Yeah. Tell me the difference between those two. And that starts at a young age, and I think that's why if I could go and change anything, I would go change how we coach. And I actually worked with a neuroscientist, and we developed camps, and I just haven't found people to kind of buy into it. But it's the same idea as soccer. When in soccer, if you do something bad, they hold a yellow card, a red card, there's a green card. We want to coach the positive. So if you're in a camp and you have a good block, throw a green flag and say, awesome job. That's exactly what you should do.
Positive reinforcement.
And tell me what kind of difference that would make in our football players compared to what we have gone through for most of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Gus,
That'll be good.
real quick, we got about 5-6 minutes left, so I wanted to ask this real quick as we'll wrap up with this.
Where did JB go? Did he go to sleep? Did you take a nap? What'd you do?
You know,
He's old.
I figured you were the best thing to happen to the show since we started it. You know, George was really good. Since I put together the perfect cast, I could go take a break during the show.
Oh,
you guys were talking enough that John wasn't talking. Oh,
this is unbelievable. Who do you think
between
you are?
Jake, and George, the show was in good hands. You were keeping John quiet.
You are out of order for that. That's not unacceptable.
A glass of wine to catch up to you, Gus. So I went and got my nice glass of wine. I took a little break and was listening to you guys.
Go watch Daniel Jones.
How come only one of us doesn't have a beard? That's what I want to know. And he's a Giants fan.
I look terrible with that.
No, you need to grow it out.
You don't want to talk bad about a Giant fan.
John, you don't want to see it. I've done it.
I do.
Jake, what's your question, Jake? You got 5 minutes left.
Yeah. So you talk about coaching. You talk about coaching Zeke. I was just curious what that was like. What he was like, and what it was like to coach a guy like him.
Well, I've known Zeke since he's been in 7th grade. He went to my daughter Abby graduated with him from John Burroughs in St. Louis, and I was lucky enough to be able to coach him for 4 years. And having 2 NFL players on a team of 28 kids was incredible. But Zeke was he was a phenomenal athlete, and what separated him was his brain. When I didn't know how to explain things to kids, I would go, Zeke, come up here at left tackle and show him what I mean by how to take your steps. He would do it exactly right. I would say, okay, all right, running backs, you got to block the mic to the Sam. And, these kids are in high school. They're 10th, 11th, 12th graders.
They look like you're crazy.
Right, yeah. They're like, well, who's the mic? Well, we've talked about this for 4 weeks now. You should know. And Zeke's like, just block that guy to that guy, right? Zeke kind of understood it. And I used to split him out. I played him at every position because I just wanted him to learn the entire game, right? Not just be a running back.
That's awesome.
And when he got to Ohio State and did what he did, I wanted them to do more of him splitting out because he was really good. He has great hands. He's smart. He can run really good routes. And then when he got to Dallas, I mean, I knew those coaches. I knew Jason Garrett. He was my coach in Miami. I knew Scott Linehan for years.
I was going to say he had Linehan there.
And I said, just split him out. Throw hitches to him. Throw a quick screen to him. He's not going to drop it, and he's going to do great things for you. But they've kind of turned him into this power back that they want him to be, and without the power running game. They're just zone blocking. I'm like, come on, man.
They should have used them. Dallas should use them how the Rams used Marshall. When you was there, I think you was there 1 year with Marshall. What am I correct?
No, I missed Marshall.
Okay. That's how the Cowboys should have started Zeke and used him. Just like how the Rams, when Marshall came over from Indy and he came to the Rams, that's when his career really just taken off because he was just basically he could, just like Kurt Warner said, we can line him up anywhere. Where's the mismatch? Who we gonna go after today? And that's how they should have did Zeke. Zeke probably would have lasted longer. And when I say last longer, not getting punished by running the ball so much.
Yep.
By
He's
going out
physical
there.
back.
They also run him up the middle a lot.
Yeah.
They don't stretch him out that much.
They beat him up.
Underutilize him. They underutilize him, and they don't use him except for the same role. They think he's a power back, and that's all they want to use him for.
Yep.
Split him out. Let him play the game. He could change the game.
I've seen him go catch passes, every now and again in a game. He's scary in the open field. When you give him that ball and you let him just go, he's scary as anybody because he's it's kind of like when people see Derrick Henry. It's this big barreling dude, but he's fast and he's very quick on his feet.
But you're not going to you're not putting Derrick Henry out wide.
But I'm saying when you see Derrick Henry in the open field, it's scary. Yeah. Why? Because he's this fast dude that can knock.
It also looks like LeBron James.
It's really scary, and that's the thing that Zeke has. He's got the shiftiness, he's got the hands, and he's got that physical presence that kind of reminds me of Derrick Henry in that way. That he's fast and physical.
But the thing about the NFL is these coaches have a mindset. Right. That's why I talk about Peyton Manning a lot, because he was one of the only guys ever that the coaches had any confidence in that could call plays at the line of scrimmage. There's not many.
Right.
Jim Kelly, there's not many quarterbacks where any of the coaches give any of that power over to the guys on the field.
Right.
They want to control the whole game. And as players, we're like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this. And they don't care. They'll go down with the ship as long as they're calling the plays.
Yep.
Right.
Gus, you're correct on that power thing when it comes to Peyton, because I don't know if a lot of you guys watched the toward the end of his career with Indy. Remember when it would be like 4th and inches and 4th and 1, and he would motion to the sideline when the punt team and Tony Dungy.
I got this.
Tony Dungy just stand there like this with his arm folded.
He's like, all right, Peyton.
Yeah, he like, Peyton, whatever you want to do, you go ahead and do. And then Peyton to go and convert for first down. And that power you say, he's probably one of the only quarterbacks in the history that's had that kind of power where he can structure the practices and do all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll give you the last thing is when I was in Washington, middle of the season, Norv Turner goes, hey, we're going to run the check with me system this week. And I'm like, what? Like, we haven't ever worked on that. Like, oh, yeah, we're going to go run to run and run to pass. And I'm like, you just can't put that in on a Wednesday and expect us to be good at it on Sunday.
No.
Like,
Why
Peyton
not?
Manning, because Peyton Manning was killing it at that point, and he was young, and a lot of teams were doing it, and it's an everyday process. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
like Peyton loved that part of the game. Like they gave him that Tony gave a chance, and he took full advantage of it. But
that's what made him
happen
special
with a lot of guys. Yeah, exactly.
That's what made
Do
him
you want to
special.
wrap us up?
I got you. So yeah, Gus, really, really quickly, where can everybody find you on social medias, things like that?
Yeah, so they can find me at Gus Frerott or at Huddle Up with Gus. That's my podcast. And then quickly, I started with the NFL alumni. I created the NFL Alumni Podcast Network. So any former player, George, who wants to have their own podcast or do their team podcast can call me or email me at info@nflapodcast.com. And I do it all for free for the guys, because so many guys, you guys know how hard it is to podcast and all the editing and everything it takes to do it, the social media
Absolutely.
And so I've been doing it for a long time, and I wanted guys to tell their stories.
Absolutely.
And because we all have so many locker room stories and people love to hear it. And
Yes.
I feel like anything we do as former players, we're stronger together. And so the NFL alumni let me create this, and we're building. Right now we have 5. I think we have 7 podcasts, and my favorite one right now is called In the Dog Pound. Leroy Horde, Eric Metcalf, Hanford Dixon, Mike Tomczak, and Frank Stams. They're doing In the Dog Pound every week, and they're going through and telling their locker room stories, talking about what's going on with the Browns, and having guests on. So it's an incredible thing. And just like you guys love doing it, all of our players love doing it, but it's work. And I wanted to take that work out of it for them and let them have fun.
Absolutely. Well, again, Gus, thank you so much for coming on. To everybody at home, as you always see, just look across the bottom of your screen. That's where all our socials are. And on that note, everybody have a good one. We will see you next time.